Hello everyone, long time no see. It's been roughly 4 years since my last upload, and I'm sure all 61 of my subscribers are no doubt clamouring to know what's been going on in those 4 years. Where is the Beetle up to? Well, shamefully, the answer is, as you can see, not much progress has been made. In fact, the car hasn't been touched very much in those last 4 years. The truth is, basically, I've pretty much got to the end of stuff that I can do myself, which is mainly mechanical stuff. If you look back on my videos, we went through the engine, the brakes, the clutch, some other little bits and pieces. And those are all things I can do myself, but what really needs doing, as you can see, is bodywork. We've got little bits of rust sort of all over, really. The chassis itself is pretty straight and not too rusty, but there's things like this. And what really needs doing is, the plan always was, the car needs basically stripping back and all those little bits attending to before we go for a full respray. And that's not something I can do myself. I don't have the skills to do that, or the space to do that. I can't weld. I'd love to learn, but even if I did, where am I going to get a welder in here? So basically it's going to need to be left to the professionals, and that is going to cost money. There are, of course, some other things we could be doing. Electrics, for instance, needs a full rewire, basically. But it doesn't really make sense to do that now, because if I'm going to get it stripped down, then I might as well do that at the point where I've stripped everything out, just get all the old wiring loom out and put a new one in. So I'm going to leave that for the time being. So what else has been going on in those 4 years? Well, I've moved house, I've changed careers. Myself and my partner are now civilly partnered. So there's been a lot happening. But things are sort of settling down now, and sort of back in the position where we can get going on these sorts of projects. So what have I done? Well, I've bought this. It's a 1997 Golf Mark III GTI 8 valve. It's the least desirable of the Golf GTIs. Basically, when these came out, they were heavier than the previous generation, but not really any more powerful, so slower and more expensive, but they were built a little bit better. The Mark 1s these days are, they're the one everyone wants, and they are going for telephone numbers, and the Mark 2s are not far behind that either. So my thinking is Mark 3s can't be that far behind, right? They've got that sort of retro appeal, so no doubt they'll start coming up in due course. This one is not going to be worth anything like that. It's got its problems. That's an indication right there. Yeah, it's not the finest example around, but it was cheap. I paid £550 for this. I got it on Facebook Marketplace. I went to pick it up. I drove it home, most of the way home, and then it broke down on the way home, and it hasn't moved since. And that's a familiar story, because as you may recall, exactly the same thing happened when I bought my Beetle back in 2012. So yeah, that's what happens when you buy old Volkswagens, it seems. Have I learnt my lesson? Clearly not. Will I do it again? Almost certainly. But there we go. So what's the matter with it? Well, aside from the obvious, it's got plenty of rust. It's fairly clean underneath, but it's definitely going to need some new wings. Actually, that's one of the better ones. The one on the other side is worse. It did drive okay. Oh look, there's me before it broke down. You can't really see back there, but it has got a rather sporty exhaust on it as well. If we go inside, oh yeah, it smells bad in here. We're going to focus up. Yeah, it sort of smells like kind of like a farmyard scent. So we'll try and get that out somehow. Dead battery, you can't tell, but it's got 191,000 miles on the clock. Let's get the bonnet open. We can have a little look under there. There we go. Oh, bit of a tight squeeze in here. There you go, there's that familiar Golf clunk. It's a sign of quality, isn't it? It is, after all, a quality vehicle. So, let's have a look at the lump. I might need to put you down. Let's see if I can do this with one hand. There it is. There we go. The VW AGG 2-litre 8 valve. Clearly this one isn't, as with the rest of the car, isn't the finest example. We've got quite a lot of seepage around the valve cover there. That was there before. I don't think that's the issue. So I think what we need to do is just get stuck in and see if we can figure out why it stopped running in the first place, and then we can work on fixing it. So come with me on this voyage of discovery. Right then, we've got a battery booster on there now, so let's see what happens when we try and start it. I can show you what we're dealing with. So as you can see, turns over, but no start. Turns over all right. Yeah, no horrible noises or anything. So let's go through the steps and see why we don't have any firing. So as you guys know, the first thing we want to check is, the easiest thing to check is, have we got spark? So I'm just going to pull one of these plugs off. Helps if you have the right socket. That's the one we want. Right, you guys can watch here and see if you see a spark. Okay, so I don't know if you guys saw it, but I did see a spark, and it also sounded like it wanted to run for a second, so that's good news. I can smell fuel, so I'm sure we've got fuel as well. So we've got fuel and spark. I think the next thing to check is whether we've got compression. Okay, so we've got all the plugs out now, and we've got the compression tester in cylinder 1. Let's see what we get. Judging by the way it was turning over before, I think we're going to be low on at least one cylinder. Let's put it to the test. Oh dear. Yeah, that's about 25 psi, so that's obviously very, very bad. We should be more way above 100. So that's one cylinder. I think we might know why it's not starting. Let's try the other 4 just in case. But yeah, looks like we know what we're dealing with here. Having said that, having just unwound the, taken out the test fitting, that could be letting some compression through, do you think? I'm going to persevere. I mean, at the end of the day, spark plug doesn't have an O-ring at the end, and maybe I can just use some of these washers off the end of it. Is that going to work? I've got some old spark plugs, so I'll give that a go. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm just going to have to find some new O-rings, aren't I? Right then, let's try cylinder 2. I think we already know how this is going to go, but might as well give it a try. Right, so I cranked it a bit longer that time, and we managed to get up to 60 psi. So cylinder number 2 is our champion at the moment. Still not very good, but something. Let's try the other 2. There we go, cylinder 3. We could hear straight away that wasn't right, and sure enough, we've got nothing. Okay, and on to number 4. Okay, last one. I think this one might be a bit of a foregone conclusion, but we'll go through the motions. Yeah, nada. Zilch. So I think we found our culprit. So I think it's fair to say we found our culprit. The reason why we're not starting, we've got no compression. What can cause no compression? Well, a bunch of things. Holes in the valves, holes in the pistons, piston rings, camshaft. Could be the timing belt has gone. These are non-interference engines, which means that when if the timing belt were to go, the valves would not hit the top of the cylinder, so top of the piston rather. So that wouldn't be completely awful if that were to happen. However, I can see, sorry for moving you about, we do indeed have a timing belt. I can tell because someone's clearly been in here before. So timing belt is still there, so I don't think it's that. But I think the thing to do now is going to be take the valve cover off. So I think it's probably fair that I tell you the story of what happened when I picked this car up. Confession time. So I picked it up. It was about 100 miles away from my house. Drove it back, or attempted to. It drove pretty well for the first sort of 45 minutes, and it was as I got on the motorway, I could hear what was unmistakably a top end rattle. Now, being foolish, I didn't stop straight away. It was a smart motorway, so there was not really anywhere to stop. I have my feelings about smart motorways. So kept going for maybe 5 minutes before I thought, okay, we're going to have to pull in here. However, before I could get to the next junction, the noise got worse and the engine just cut out entirely. And that left me stranded in a live lane of the motorway, which is never fun. I had to dive out the passenger side. Luckily, the police arrived very quickly, shut down the lane, and Highways Agency towed me off, so big thanks to those guys. However, that top end rattle suggests to me that it is certainly something going on underneath here, underneath the valve cover. The fact that it turns over so freely means that I think we probably have survived any sort of bottom end damage or anything like that. I can't hear any squeaks or anything like that, so I don't think we've spun a bearing or anything. But yes, certainly something is amiss with the valve train. So I think our next job is going to be get the valve cover off, have a peek underneath and just see if all is well under there, and just make sure that we've got valves opening and closing as we should. So that's going to be the next task. Pop this bad boy off. Alright, let's get to work. So removing the valve cover, I know the process. I did have a look in the Haynes manual, of course, but the trouble is this one covers like every engine that the Mark III Golf came with, and it came with a lot of different ones, petrol and diesel, so my millennial attention span couldn't make head nor tails of it. I need a YouTube tutorial really, but I think we'll just go for it. So I'm pretty sure, well, let's see if we can get that off first. That'll do the job. Sockets here. Not actually sure what this thing on the top is, to be honest. I'm not really, I mean, I'm nowhere near as familiar with these cars as I am with, say, a Beetle, so this will be a real journey. Oh, well, whatever it is, doesn't look too good. I think we're going to need to get that out of the way, aren't we? So we shall remove this Jubilee clip. Yeah, I mean, the obvious disclaimer here is I'm not a professional mechanic. I don't really know what I'm doing, so don't take anything I do here as any kind of professional advice. I'm just going to leave that as it is for now. That's enough to clear the valve cover anyway. Right, so these. There she goes. What's that stuck on now? Oh wow. Oh, there's an earthing strap there, okay. Oh, let's just dangle that out of the way. Yes. That doesn't look very good, does it? Does that come off? What's that held on with? Wow, wow, wow. Yeah, this is pretty much what we expected. You can see under there, but that that's a lot of sludge. So yeah, I think it's clear that this car has not been very well looked after. Oh, it's broken. Of course it is. Right, we need a new one of those. Seen that coming. It's literally baked on there. Alright, here's a slightly better angle. So, we've got the oil baffle off a plastic piece which you just snapped in half. To be expected. I mean, it's obviously got very hot and brittle and it's covered in, it was just baked on, so I had to pry it off and it snapped, so hopefully they aren't expensive. So here we can see the cam lobes and the tappets underneath here, which, I mean, they do seem to be somewhat working, or like how we'd expect them to be. I'm trying to look for any evidence of like completely catastrophic damage under here, but I'm not, aside from all of this kind of caked on garbage, I'm not seeing too much. I mean, you can see how brown these are. I'm just looking at the lobes to see how worn they look. I mean, they look, you know, worn, but then this engine's got a lot of miles on it, so yes, interesting. I'm not seeing any like major scoring on them. This backlight's not going to touch it, is it? Alright, what do you say we bump the engine over slightly so that we can just have a little look, see if the make sure everything's spinning correctly and tap it to moving up and down. Normally I wouldn't recommend this because well, you probably just get oil spraying everywhere, but to be honest, I think oil pressure is suspect in the first place, so I'm not too worried, and we're only going to be quick, so let's give it a go. Well, that was interesting, wasn't it? Camshaft did not spin at all. I didn't see the timing belt move either. Okay, so that does give us a conundrum, doesn't it? Something is very badly amiss. Okay, let's look into this further. Okay, so this is my major concern right now. I've managed to get that timing cover off. I'm gonna zoom in here. So I'm pretty sure this here is the crank pulley. Oh no, it's further down, isn't it? So what is that there? Well, either way, the bad thing is, when I turn the engine over, it just doesn't spin at all, so something there is obviously fairly major has failed in there. Something to do with the I don't know, the crankshaft timing gear, but it's going to be a pretty big diagnosis to get in there, so I'm going to have to get the lower timing cover off and something shared like the Woodruff key or something or whatever, I don't know. We're getting into some pretty major stuff here as far as I'm concerned. This is going to be a bigger job than I thought. Okay, so as you saw there, this alternator pulley, which does come off the crank pulley down here, that was spinning. So I think I need to basically hit the books and see if I can understand why, you know, just how these pulleys sort of interlink, because I don't really. There's obviously something that, like, that's turning, but this isn't. So, time to do some reading and maybe some watching of videos just to see how that works. Obviously, I'm gonna have to get in there and pull that all off. That's gonna be the next job, isn't it? Okay, so here's what we've learned. Basically, the crankshaft pulley is spinning, and we know that because it's driving the alternator belt, but the timing belt isn't moving. So essentially, what we're going to have to do is get the crankshaft pulley off. I believe there's something called a Woodruff key, which basically keys the actual timing gear so that they both spin together, and allegedly they can share. There could be any, you know, we're not going to know until we get it off, but that I think is where our failure point is. I can also see or confirm now that looking at the valves on top of the valves in cylinders 1 and 2, they are up, so they're kind of closed. And this one, 3 and 4, has at least one valve open on each side. I'm not sure which side's which, but one intake and one exhaust are open, so that explains why we've got no compression on these two and some limited compression on the first two. So yes, basically it's going to be crankshaft pulley off, and that's going to be quite an involved job, so I need to go and do some preparation for that and figure out exactly what that's going to involve. Yeah, we knew it was going to be something fairly serious with no compression, but that's not something I've ever done before, so yeah, I mean, you know, there's always a time to learn, isn't there? So we'll see how we get on. But I think there's nothing I'm going to be able to do about it today, so we might have to leave this video over here, guys. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for coming back if you remember my old videos. Hopefully we'll have some good content coming up for you, and we can get this beast running again. And then yeah, once we get it running, I've got some other plans for this car if we get it running. You know, it's not the tidiest example, so it's never going to be like a nice factory fresh resto, but seeing as they're not the most desirable cars at the moment anyway, I think the time is right maybe to do some mods. Who knows? But we're getting ahead of ourselves because we've obviously got some pretty major mechanical issues to deal with first. So yes, that's first on the agenda. Join me again next time. Like, comment, subscribe if you want. Do all of that stuff. Yeah. See you again soon.